Hi, my name's Laura Barman, and I'm a homeschooling mom of 5 kids. Last school year, we had 5th grade, 3rd grade, 1st grade, K3, and a baby who is about 1. I'm going to talk about what I did with my 5th grader. Her name's Lucy, and she's my oldest. Last year was definitely a bump up in schoolwork, so I definitely want to just kind of talk about what that was like having a 5th grader for the first time. I'll start with reading. We always do family read alouds. We always do Bible together. This was the first year, and I'll talk about this in my family subjects. This is the first year that I let her go do Bible independently. So we do a Becca Bible, and by this point, we have done a Becca Bible this is our 5th year doing it, and a Becca Bible kind of cycles through. So a Becca Bible that we were doing, we had cycled back to level 1, which she had already done when she was in 1st grade, or maybe I can't remember the year that she did it, but she had already done that. And so this year she was working on a devotional book that she had got through church. And then I also taught her how to do hear journals, which are, it's also called like the soak method. There's all these things. But basically you are reading one chapter of the Bible and you are picking out a verse to write down, writing about how it applies to you, what God is saying about this, and then responding with a prayer. And so her answers were pretty short. I'd never done it before, but about, 4 sentences a day on that. And we were not perfect with it, but I was excited to start that with her this year. One lesson learned with that is that I did get her an NLT Bible for this upcoming school year because she had an ESV, but I thought that it might be a little bit easier to read some harder books of the Bible, or maybe harder to understand books of the Bible in a different translation. And then after we did that, we would do some read alouds, and I'll talk about that in another video. Her independent reading was not a whole lot this year. She was had a lot of other work, but she ended up reading Toothpaste, Millionaire, Catherine Called Birdy. These are assigned readers. Half Magic, and then she read Misty of Chincoteague. I can't. Hope I'm saying that right. Then we did math, and this was the year that we switched to Saxon. We had been doing Math Mammoth levels 1 through 4. I want to say she did half of level 4 because she was a little behind in math, and then we went straight from midway point of level 4 with Math Mammoth to Saxon 6-5, and we did this with Nicole the math lady. I would say overall it was a good experience. I would say this felt easier to me than Math Mammoth, but we were skipping half of the problems. For the mixed review, we did half of those, so it would be even or odds and rotated those. So she really enjoyed Nicole the math lady. I would not say math is her strongest subject. She did the online corrections with Nicole the math lady, and I felt like I was getting emails with like a lot wrong. So then that created a big workload for me because we were she was watching the video, doing the lessons, writing them down to some extent, and then putting them in the box on Nicole the math lady's online site, then getting some of them wrong. I was getting an email about the ones were wrong. Then I felt like I needed to correct those and she needed to redo those. So it kind of created this like whole process. What we ended up doing is stopping the online corrections and just really, really focusing on neatness. And I needed to see where the work was because I felt like at the beginning of the year when we were not focusing on writing down things in a neat and orderly fashion, she would get something wrong and I couldn't find it. She couldn't find it where she had originally written it. And I think this is due to the fact that in Math Mammoth, everything is in the workbook and you are writing you're writing the solutions right there. So Saxon is a big jump because Saxon, the problems are in the book and you don't write it in the book. So here's an example of what like a page of Saxon looks like. You have to write very clearly somewhere else in a notebook. I'm doing lesson 82 and this is problem number 6, and I'm going to write the problem and I'm going to write the answer. So for us, that was a really, really big learning curve of writing in a notebook. You wouldn't think that it would be, but I'm just being honest, it was. A lot of work on neatness and orderliness and writing what lesson you were on and making sure I could read it and making sure I could see her work. And then I ended up, a second half of the year, I ended up correcting it, and then I would hand it back to her corrected. And after I handed it back to her corrected, after I handed it back to her corrected, then she would correct it with a different color pen. I would correct it with red. She would recorrect it with purple or green ink, and then we would then work on those corrections together. And again, I don't think this would be required for everyone. She's a young 5th grader, and she was doing the 6-5. Maybe that was too much. Maybe we should have been back a level. I'm not sure. Feedback would be great. Comment, tell me. But I wanted her on that track. So we just kind of spent a lot of time on math, and we would, whatever she got wrong and then still was confused about during her correcting the corrections phase, we would sit down and correct those together. And that would be when I would teach her things that maybe she was confused about. So I did not feel like Nicole, the math lady, taught enough to make sure that my child never had a question. But, you know, that's fine. I think the lecturing was helpful, and I also just ended up maybe helping her focus on her weak points later in the day. And we didn't even do it every day. It was probably like twice a week that we would sit down and do a lot of corrections together. So that was math. Also new for us was these just daily math facts practice sheets. And this was definitely an adjustment, doing this many every single day. But I do feel like over the course of the year, we got used to that. So that was good for Saxon. We did these flashcards very, very occasionally because of those math facts practice sheets. And so, yeah, and then there was tests about one every 2 weeks, I would say. For language arts, we spent a lot of time in that because we were doing something new, and that was essentials through CC. And we actually opted to do it at home because of a napping baby, and I just kind of wanted to learn the curriculum anyway. So we bought the curriculum online and just kind of learned it and did it together. And I thought that it was great. In that curriculum, there's a lot of components to it, so I wanted to walk through that really quick. First of all, probably the most straightforward thing is that they have spelling lists. Spelling lists were from Spelling Plus, but let me show you just an example of a week. And there's 3 lists, one for Tour 1, 4th grade, 5th grade, 6th grade. Well, for us, since we had not done essentials for 4th grade, we were starting in 5th grade, we did 2 lists. And this list was really easy. They say that over the course of all 3 lists, you're gonna learn like the 1,000 most commonly used words in the English language. So anyways, this list was normally easy for her. This list was hard for her. So she did both, but I didn't feel like it was too much because these were pretty much straightforward, was not getting them wrong. These, she was getting some wrong. So how we did that is I would make a recording on my phone, like a voice memo, and she has a Gmail account with a Chromebook. I would make voice memos for all these lists and email them to her, and every day she would first study the list, like look at it, then she would listen to the voice memo and write it from the voice memo onto her spelling list for the day. So that seemed to work pretty well. And then as we like had mistakes and things, we would add that to the next week's list. Then also in essentials, you get some corrections, which this to me was kind of like Fix-It Grammar, definitely a level up from Fix-It Grammar, or I don't know, it felt a little more difficult. But this is like week 22. This all from scripture. This was Esther, and they have, you know, just a list of things that you need to check for. And then in my teacher guide, I would have, you know, the corrections that were necessary. So at the beginning of the week, I would put this on her clipboard. I kind of use a clipboard system with my kids where every day they would get a clipboard with anything that's like a single sheet of paper is going to be in the clipboard with honestly just like a stack of things that they needed to do that day. So she would, so far what we've talked about, she would have her math book sitting there. She would have anything separate that she needed to do, like her spelling pieces of paper, her math fact sheet, and like this sheet, a copy of this sheet. So she would work on that, and then at some point during the week we would correct that together. So that was pretty straightforward. A lot of spelling errors in there too, so I feel like that was kind of like spelling practice as well. Already talked about reading. Also in essentials, every week they have like a new topic that they're learning. So this is an example of week 19, and this is my parent prep. So this is basically what I need to read. This is what we're going to practice this week, and then this is what we are going to learn. So this was a focus on verbs and different sentence models, sentence types. So I would either read this, and there's like practice sentences based on whatever concept you're learning, teaching you how to diagram that type of sentence. I would either read this in advance and teach it to her, or sometimes we would even just read it together because she was not going to essentials class. And I felt like it was great. I feel like I really, really, really enjoyed this curriculum. I really wish we could have just gone to the essentials class because it would have been nice to have someone else teach that to us. But I did feel like since we weren't able to stay in the afternoon for a variety of reasons, this was like a good second best option. So we would learn that, and then after we learned that, then we would do these practice sentences, and every week there is 5 of them, and I would read this is one sentence. I would read this one sentence to her, and then she would label every word in the sentence, and then she would diagram the sentence, and then, you know, there's a bunch of questions that I talk her through. And I really, really like how every year this builds on itself. So we will be doing these same sentences next year, except we will be doing more complicated things like dissecting the sentences and doing more with the sentences as she repeats it next year. But for her first year, it was definitely a learning curve for us because we had never done anything like to this extent with sentence diagramming, but we enjoyed it, and I felt like it wasn't like super time consuming, and I felt like we learned a lot with that. What was a little bit more time consuming, and we didn't really master this, was the charts. So there's a lot of charts in essentials, and every week you have like a different chart. I took all the charts and laminated them at the beginning of the year because throughout the year they'll say, look at the chart, copy the chart. So there was a few that she did memorize, and then a lot of them were just looking at the chart, learning from the chart. That is something I'm going to do a little bit differently next year. I will probably laminate one and maybe have some in sheet protectors. I felt like having 2 sides laminated with different charts on either side got really, really confusing. I had all the charts and they were all laminated, which seems like a great idea, but then every week I needed to find the blank chart. Let's say we were doing chart O. I would have to find the blank chart O and the filled in chart O. And so that was just a little bit of a pain. I'm trying to think of how to do that. That's an easier way to do that. I know the Trivium table might work, so maybe I'll get that. That was our experience with that. We also did, the essentials is a lot. It's a big pack of paper. So I had it divided under like 2 to 3 binders, just different things in different binders. And then I also had like a overflow binder from like the weeks that we weren't working for. So this is like first semester stuff that we were done with. So this was the overflow binder because we'll be using it again probably. For writing, we continued with IEW. Her 4th grade year, we had done online streaming IEW level 1A. Her 5th grade year, we did level 2A. And this was her binder, and you have everything you need in here. This was the teacher's manual, and then I also got DVDs this time instead of streaming. I just wanted to try that out. So anyways, this worked out fine for us. She loves the videos. She loves Andrew Pudawa teaching. Every week this is a portable walls, and it's like just like a little fancy folder that you have. And what we did this year for the first time that I really enjoyed was whatever paper she was working on, we would paper clip all of the papers that she needed for that paper and just put it in this folder. So at the beginning of the day, I would just sit this folder on her seat, so she would have like everything she needed to work on her paper here. And you know, obviously sometimes we were typing up a paper, but most of the time it was like handwriting, outlines, and all of that was in one place. I don't have anything to say. I feel like the 2A was just a little bit of a step up from 1A, different paper topics, definitely good to repeat it. It's basically the same things from 1A, just like a little bit more advanced. So we did like that. Some family subjects that we did were history. We did Story of the World 2. I'll talk more about that on my family subjects video. And we did an academic co-op where she did science, and that was BJU science. She had this book, and then she also had student workbook, but I don't have that anymore, but she enjoyed this. She did that the whole year through that co-op, and then she also did geography through that co-op, and they focused on Asia. So she really enjoyed that. They did a lot of fun projects. She did a project on a country in Asia. At the beginning of the year, we did Good and the Beautiful handwriting, and we made it not super far, but you know, enjoyed it. And then I decided that we could just easily put some of her other homework in cursive to practice cursive. So I felt like at 5th grade, we no longer need to do cursive. I'm kind of just saying that for my own reference. We also had a typing program that we did that she would do. I think it was typing.com that we did here and there. She also did Good and the Beautiful typing and got about halfway through. So I think my take on that was typing.com is just as good as Good and the Beautiful, and it's free, so I will continue to use typing.com. We also got this Spanish curriculum for her, and it's called Spanish for Children. It's through Classical Academy Press, and it is very great and probably one of the best Spanish programs that I have seen for this age. I did feel like with everything else going on and with trying to do essentials for the first time, spending a fair amount of time on IEW, spending a lot of time on math, that this was too much for us for this year. We are hopefully going to do it another year. This is 1 lesson per week with a lot of vocab every week. She has 1 DVD a week. It's about 30 minutes. I really wish that it was more than 30 minutes a week, but that's all that there was. So, and then here's the answer key. So I would say this is a really good middle school program. I felt like it was a lot for a 5th grader. And that's all I have for my 5th grader. Overall, it was a really good year. Definitely a step up. We're gearing up for middle school. And so overall, I feel like she learned a lot. I feel like it was a challenging year, and I'm hoping to get back into more reading, because I just felt like reading took a back seat just due to busyness. She ended up doing drama through a homeschool, like she did a homeschool drama production that took a fair amount of time. So in addition to co-ops and that and memory work and all the other things we were doing, it felt like a lot to add on like chapter books for her to read. So anyways, we didn't do much with that, and I'm hoping to do more next year. Hope that helps. Bye.